in the next 3 or 4 sessions. Now over here is a painting I'm working on. It's almost completely done. But this is an acrylic painting of an Indian village up in the mountains. We're not going to use the mountains. We're going to use a plains sort of setting this time. What we're going to do is we're going to focus in on the section like right in this area right here. We're going to take one TP, maybe a couple of smaller ones. We're going to put it into a closer up setting, mostly because this was way too complicated to do in a 3 or 4 session painting show, and it's just too advanced to do anyway. So here we are. We have our canvas. This is a vertical format. We're going to have the larger TP here. We're going to have the smaller TPs in the background. And I'm not sure how many we're going to put in there yet, but I just got them sketched in there. Of a small little stream maybe, and a little water here, and some snow and some ice here, and the bushes and some distant trees, because then we'll probably be at the edge of the forest. Now, growing up as a young man in the Midwest in Oklahoma, I had a lot of connection to this type of thing. So we're just going to call this one tribal existence. This is how they existed, and it was a tough life, but they managed it, and they were good. We can all learn from how they handled the survival out there and with just nature. My father, who was he was a good friend with some of the Osage chiefs there, because that's where we're from, Osage County, Oklahoma, and he's from a little town there where the Osage was a really prevalent part of the Indian heritage. There was a lot of Indians there that were in the Osage tribe, and he knew a lot of them, and I got to meet a lot of them. There's still a lot of them there. Kind of fascinating to hear their stories and see how they lived, and I've got tons of reference material, so we're going to have a lot of fun with this. So those of you that love this kind of thing, you'll love it. If you don't, you won't. But we're going to try to make everybody happy eventually. I have grayed the canvas. This is an 18x4 stretch canvas. I've just used burnt sienna, blue and white, create sort of a middle tone gray, and that's all there is to it. A light sketch here. By the way, I might mention something. Now, modern technology is helping us out a lot. Because of the technique we use, sometimes if I sketch like this, and I'm going to paint over the sky, I'll usually lose part of my sketch. When I get my sketch in there, what I'm doing now at the studio, and a lot of my students are doing, we just take a picture of this with your iPhone or your whatever smartphone you have, and then when you paint over, you can just look at it or you draw it. That way you don't have to draw it on the sketch paper and have all that extra work and hassle. So that's something to do. And I've already taken a picture of this, so if I need to see the sketch again, I'll just get my phone out here and look at it. Meantime, let's get started. This is going to be a sunset. We're going to start with our hake brush, which we normally do. Sometimes we use the number 10 bristle. And I'm just going to take a little water, first of all, and you'll see I'm going to paint right over the top of the TP. So if, I've done this kind of thing so many times, I probably don't need to look at the sketch, but say you lose the sketch, and you go, oh no, I can't remember what I have. Well, then just pull up your phone or whatever you have, or your whatever device you're using. Now I'm going to start at the horizon with a little yellow and orange and white, and a little bit of red. So this session today, as with most, and probably a good part of the next one, will be just a lot of underpainting stuff taking place. I like the cad red in here. It adds a real rich tint to this. Now notice I'm streaking it back and forth, and I'm feathering it as I go, putting a little more gesso in it to slightly opaque it, and then I'll add some more color here in a minute. You have to have the gesso in there. Now kind of feather this up, and as you go up, add more gesso to kind of kill the strong orange, and then when you put your blues and the purples in, you'll be able to get a better blend, and it'll be a cleaner color. Nice long horizontal strokes. And so you can see a little bit of striping in there. That's fine. There's no problem with that. Now rinse your brush out just a little bit. You don't have to get it real clean. I've studied the Indian heritage and all the things for years, and have painted lots and lots of these things. And the Plains Indians, well, almost all of them that traveled throughout they followed the herds of buffalo and wildlife. That's basically, they were just nomads, and they had to go where the food was. So they usually found a nice spot where they could sit down for the winter. And you're going to take your ultramarine blue, a little bit of dioxazine purple, and you're going to go across the top now. And get that in there. A little more blue. More purple now. We add a little gesso to that to opaque it as well. You want the top part of the sky to be fairly dark so that you'll be able to kind of get the atmosphere that it's late evening, the nighttime setting in, and it's a little darker at the top almost always in every case. Put a little burnt sienna in there if you want to. Some people will do that to kind of warm it up a little bit. You don't have to. Everybody does things a little differently. You can put turquoise in there, like turquoise deep, which seems to be becoming more and more almost everybody's favorite color. Boy, it's a fascinating color. Okay, now once I kind of get my color in there with this brush, it's pretty big. Now I'm going to switch down to my 1.5" Hake brush. This is just a same brush, smaller version, a little smaller handle, and I've discovered these work real good for this kind of thing. So now I'm going to take the blue. Don't get too much water. A little purple. And a little burnt sienna, just a little. And I want to get me some nice deep tints here. Now the purple is important. Alright, now this will kind of clean it up just a little bit. Make it just a little bit easier to work with. Now as you come down, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start putting now a little bit of a movement of the horizontal cloud. So you just kind of go through and kind of scumble like this. So you're just putting one of the little swirls of the clouds and you kind of skim it. So you make the little movements of the sky in there. You know how the clouds will just kind of be kind of wispy. Now, this is not the finished product, by the way, folks. This is just the underpainting. Now, some of them will stay finished. We'll put some silver linings. We'll put some brighter glow here. Maybe put a sunlight somewhere. I don't know. This will be a backlit painting, by the way. I might have to mention that to you. Our light source will be coming from the back, either the left back or the right back. So we can have some cast shadows in the foreground. I'm not quite sure where it's going to go yet. The beauty of this kind of painting is just kind of ad lib. And you just kind of play with this until you're happy with your little bit of arrangement of, kind of movement in the sky. Really, whoops, kind of hit that a little too hard. But just blend it in with a little bit of cloud section over there. That's all you got to do. There we go. Now then. Well, that's still wet back there. That's all I need to do for the moment. And we're going to brighten this in a little bit. But right now, I want to go ahead and take the same brush, take the purple. Now remember, they're on the edge of the forest. They would always, they were smart. They learned a lot from their existence. They got out of the wind. They got to a place where they could be protected from the elements. Now to kind of settle down for the winter. Now, many years ago, and I did a painting a long time ago. Some of you may remember. A whole series of paintings. They're historical paintings of the earlier native Indians that lived in this country. Actually, even before they had bows and arrows, and it was where they would run the buffalo herds over the big cliffs, and they would, get them and make pemmican. And I did so many cool paintings. We actually reenacted an entire Indian camp. We built a little wiki, what they called them, the wiki-ups and the travois and oh man, it was fun. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of dragging this down. I create a real soft distance. I'll be kind of like distant trees when we're finished. You don't want this to be too strong. See, because this is still wet, as I drag my brush down, see, I can feather that back in there. Looks really good. That's probably all you need for that. Might come down just a little lower right in the center. Yeah, that's what I want right there. Looks good. But the key to this, guys, as you pull your brush down, you kind of drag this. It's called dry brush skimming. It's a feather stroke that kind of gives you a light, soft edge. All right, now we're going to let this set up and dry. Well, that's dry. We're going to block in our water. Switch to my number 10 bristle brush. Now, we're just going to get everything blocked in here, hopefully as quickly as we can today. Now, go back down here to your purple, your turquoise deep, your ultramarine blue, and a little burnt umber. Start at the base. And just start filling this in. And that's all I did on the other painting over here. Just turquoise deep. I'm going to have to Get a little bit more of that out here. The thing about this turquoise is it's just a fabulous color. It's one of my favorite colors of all time because when you put a little white in it, it just explodes. And one of the things you like about this is you can use it in all kinds of paintings, and done correctly, it will add phenomenal effects in terms of, like for instance, the intensity of this. Watch what happens when I add a little white to it. See how that just explodes with color right there? And the more white you add, of course, look at that. Isn't that exciting? So you want to put a little white now as you go. Keep your strokes horizontal. You want to have a little movement. You can put a little green, hooker's green in it, because this water is going to have a lot of color in it, but it's mostly the turquoise, the ultramarine, a little umber. We want it real deep so that we can put our ice flows out on top of it. So you want to make sure you have good coverage. Don't use too much water in the paint. And it's okay if you see a few brush strokes. See, they're kind of lazy bananas as you block those in there. All right, so just keep working your way up. Now we will also have to pick up some of the colors in the sky down here in a little bit, but right now I just want to get this in. And in our next session, we'll put more of the sunset color in here. Man, this is so much fun. By the way, keep your strokes very horizontal so your water will stay flat. That's critical. You still add a touch of white. So it just picks up a little color in there and adds a little variety of the tints and the hues. Now this is a little slew right back in this area right here. So I'm going to put a little hooker's green, a little umber, a little purple. Now I want this to be pretty dark right in here. And we've talked about this before, those of you that have been watching for a long time. It's not like necessarily a rule, but it is kind of a rule. It's best if you're able in most paintings to keep your corners fairly dark. And the reason for that is to hold your eye focused towards where your light's going to be. In this case, the TP and the snow, the sunset, the solstice. So if you just keep this area darker, you'll do some highlighting, of course, but you put most of your color up in the center part of the area. All right, now just keep working your way up here. And as you go up in this case, you do want to add a little bit more light to it. Now, as you come right up and through here, I want you to rinse your brush. Try to get all that really blue out. You don't have to get it 100% clean. And take a little bit of your gesso, a little bit of your orange, maybe a little red. And we're going to start getting just a little bit of the color, and maybe it's a yellow, of the sun glow in the water. Now, this is a little tricky, but right now I just want to get some color in here. We're not finished. This is just underpainting, so I want all of you who've been watching the show already know this, and you're not going to panic. Those of you that haven't done this before are going to panic a little bit, but this water has to stay very clean. And this will be picking up some of the color from your sunset. So work it down in and work it back up until the two kind of blend together. And kind of go across here. So I'm keeping my edges soft. Work your way right up. Oops, wrong thing there. This is going to go right on up into here. So what I'm doing now, water's going to go through here, and then on the banks, on the edges where the edges are, this is where underpainting is tough. For those of you who are not used to this, and I go through this every week back at the studio when I have new students, you're not used to underpainting. It looks really sloppy and messy. And it seems like on every show, on the first painting day or two, I'm always apologizing for that, and I really shouldn't, but I just feel compelled to do that so that you'll feel better, because it's okay. Because, it's always going to be sloppy and messy with it. But if you be patient with the process, you get it. And right along the edge, where the water's gonna, the end of the water's gonna be darkened. So I'm doing this. This will be sort of the shoreline, believe it or not, when we're finished. Won't look like much now, but just trust me. You know that old saying, the check is in the mail, just trust me. Well, believe me, this is going to be beautiful. You won't regret this. So just kind of scrub that in there, making sure I got some of that below the orangey part still showing. Doesn't have to be a whole lot yet. Okay, now then. Well, this is kind of setting up, and this is just phase one of just getting the water integrated. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go up here where it's starting to run just a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but where you have a little too much moisture, that's going to do that on a very vertical painting like this. So I'm going to take my gesso and a little bit of this turquoise and a little bit of, and I'm going to hit this again up here on top, a little bit of purple, and I'm going to blend that in just a little bit more because I want to get that. Didn't want that quite. Just a little too much water up there made that run just a little bit more than normal. Kind of hard to judge sometime in here because of the hot lights, so you have to adjust your moisture content. And sometimes you get just a little too much, and that'll happen in your own studio. There we go. I cleaned that up just about right. And get a little bit more. Perfect. When I lived in New Mexico, I had to put humidifiers in my studio because the paint dried so fast I couldn't work fast. You know, so I put humidifiers in. In Oklahoma, you have to put dehumidifiers in to suck out the moisture because we have so much humidity here. So, you know, you're always fighting some kind of battle. And here we're fighting the hot lights, and it's just hard to get it right. Okay, now these pockets here are going to be where the snow actually is going to be. And I want to show you a formula for underpainting snow. So let's go over here to the original. And this is how this painting started off, just like that. And so if you'll notice the dark mauvish blue tints underneath the snow, the shadow part, you guys see all those darker tones? That is the color of the snow. And that's what's based in there first. And that's what we're going to paint all these areas in. So you go down here to your palette. And that's born out of ultramarine blue and your gesso. And of course the purple, and a little burnt sienna, which will gray that. See that right there? Now you can adjust this to fit all kinds of scenarios. But right now I just want you to get this to sort of a mauvish gray. That's pretty close. A little more sienna probably. Yeah, see, I like that right there. And that's going to be the underpainting color for your snow. So you just come in here now, where we're going to have the snow. So now you can see what I'm talking about. I'm losing all my skips. So I'll go back to my smartphone there, and I will have it if I need it. I probably won't, but anyway, I'm just kind of getting my snow in here now. And then we'll readjust the water here in a minute. Again, those of you that have been following the program for many, many years know that we go through this every time, and you think, oh my God, how's he ever going to get out of that mess? Well, believe it or not, it works. You just got to stay with it. Don't give up. This is not like a paint by number. We've actually had people call and ask if I do a paint by number. And you just can't do that kind of thing with these fine art techniques, folks. And these things require just a lot of focus and concentration, working it out on your own. You know, I wish it was easier in some ways, but you know, how else are you going to learn if you don't get in there and just try it? So here I'm just kind of remixing this here. That purple gray, and then you have to be a perfect match. And then when we start putting the highlights on top, man, that snow will look so cold and so natural. And then we'll have these little ice flows that come out in the water a little bit. So, getting there. I tell you what, underpainting is like building a house. You have to start with the foundation, and it just looks terrible. All the stuff laying around, and the sticks, and the concrete, and the debris. Well, that's all this is. This is just like building a house. We got to have a foundation. And see, here I'm building up some little ice flows, some little mounds where we're going to make snow out of that later. And pretty soon it'll start to look just like snow. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch to a smaller brush. You guys, if I were you, I'd switch to the number 6 bristle so we can start controlling the edge of our water now. So go back here and mix the blue, the purple, and the sienna and get this nice purplish gray again. And then we'll kind of clean up the edges just a little bit. We don't need to do a whole lot, but I want to do a little here. What I mean by that, see these edges here? I want to go in and kind of put out some little, go along here and put some nice little broken spots there. Feather it just a little bit so that the water looks flat. If you put a little more white in that mixture, you can make these pop out just a little bit more, especially on these that are down here by the darker water. Now, just when you thought all hope was gone, I promise you in our next session, everything will start to look just so cool and so realistic. You just won't believe how this turns into a beautiful painting. See, what I'm doing, I'm pulling out these little, I like to call them appendages as they come around the corner up here, out into the water. And that helps to settle the edge of the water. Can you see it developing just a little bit, folks? If you're patient with the process, don't give up. A lot of you give up. You say, oh, that looks terrible. I don't want to do this. But if you'll notice now, things are getting just a little bit clearer. Kind of reminds me of those old Polaroid cameras we used to use. You know, when you took the picture, you pull it out and you let it sit on the table and kind of develop in front of your eye. Well, it looks really ugly and all the things are blurred and fine. All of a sudden, there's an image. That's kind of what this is. Okay, now I think we've got this far enough along that we can begin the next steps. And one of those steps is I wanted to get this a little brighter back here. I'm hoping that's dry enough now that we can get that in there this session. And we have a little time left. Rinse this brush out. Take your yellow and your orange, maybe just a smidgen of white. And this color kind of is up to each individual. So if you want a real strong, okay, say for instance, I'll put it out a little richer. I like that kind of orangey glow, so I'll probably use a little more orange in mine. And you just kind of scrub like that, kind of keep these little choppy strokes. It gives you sort of that I don't know, striated effect of the clouds. And just kind of work it in around and just kind of stumble, keeping in mind that some of this is covered with your teepee. See how that brings that glow up a little bit? And by the way, you can add more to this later. So if you put a little white in there, I'll give you an example, you can really make this up like it's a real strong sunset. So I just put a little more yellow, touch of white in with that. Kind of tap it around, but you also have to feather it some. You can't just leave it there. And that's why I'm using the side of your brush, what's called the chisel edge, or the chisel side, chisel corner, chisel tip. That's part of the edge of the brush as it hits the top of it. And you just kind of play with this until you're happy. I mean, I can only show you how to do it. And your job really just to figure out how much of this glow you want, how bright you want it, what color you can put more red in it. It's all a personal thing. This is why they call it artistic license. I think art is one of those things where everybody sees it so differently. That's what makes it fascinating. Good. We got a little more time left, so I can get this file in here. And then I can get you started on your script brush trees. So we'll do this. Get your little highlights in and around. a little bit wet up here, so I think on my case I'm going to stop. And between now and our next session, I'll do a little more work on that. But what I want all of you to do next, between now and our next session, I'll probably do some of this as well. I want you to get your script brush, go down here. You all know how to use this, or should know if you don't. Remember, you just take lots of water, thin it down. You want a nice mauvish gray, pretty much the same color you used on your snow. Get it real soupy, just like ink. Come up here at the back, and we're going to put a whole bunch of little distant trees in the distance back here. And you just take your brush like this, and you just start putting these in. These will just be the trees that kind of come out of that background. So you just make them real wispy. You don't make a lot of real thick, dark, heavy trees. These are just the edge of the forest in the background there. You just put a bunch of these back here. You don't even sit there and plant it. Just start stroking it like that. And then see your sunset comes through there, and that adds that nice little bit of distance to this. This is just a really cool effect because it creates contrast and it creates a very good, healthy depth in the painting that you wouldn't get otherwise. Now, yeah, I know the TP is going to probably cover some of this, but the reason, guys, I go ahead and go all the way across, I mean, just like it was in nature. I mean, the trees were there, and then the TPs go in front. So, just go ahead, put them in there, and if you lose them, you lose them. But it's good practice anyway, no matter what. So just go on across, get a whole bunch of trees lined up all the way across here like this. And that's what we're going to pick up next week. I hope you've enjoyed this. We're going to have a blast continuing this thing in the next session here at Paint This with Jerry Arnett, the Arnett School of Fine Art. God bless you. Stay inspired. I promise I'll see you again real soon.